Now we are down to our mature vines that we first planted here. And as you can see, this is where things can get a little overwhelming, and how I think that a lot of people end up with vines that aren't pruned or cared for years, because at first they're like, okay, I know what to do, and then all of a sudden it gets overwhelming and they're not really sure exactly how to prune, where to prune, and they just know that they love the grapes, but they don't know exactly what they want to do. So they give up. And then they end up with a wild mess that, yes, it can be fixed, but it's going to take a couple years before they really start growing. Dean Family Acres. I keep interacting with a couple folks that I know that have some of those that are extremely overgrown, and one of these years I'm actually gonna take one for the team for you guys and go out and figure out how to prune one of these back and kind of document how long it takes for one of those to come back to life. If you'd like to see some of that, definitely comment down below, because I think that might motivate me to actually go do it, because it really can be a pain in the neck, literally, to get one of those vines pruned back the way it should be. It's going to take a couple of years, so it's something we will have to document. Enough of that, let's dive into our most mature vines that we have and kind of talk through just a couple of those steps just to help you stay ahead of the game and not get so overwhelmed. So you can see here, there's growth going everywhere. And this can be really, really good for production, and it also can help protect from deer. If you've got a real big time deer problem, you might let them grow a little bit more than usual. I've had that recommended, but you won't have nearly as good of a strong of a crop as you normally would. And it's really easy for it to get overwhelming, and then you just end up with not much fruit within a year or two's time. So let's get in here and see if we can get these pruned up a little bit, and we'll kind of just show you a couple of tips. I know for us, at least on these vines down here, it hasn't been the deer. It's been squirrels, and squirrels have been our nemesis on a couple of different fruit, and we're gonna have to take care of that, and sooner rather than later. I try and start at the middle and kind of work my way out. You can also work at one end and work your way down. Again, make sure your trunk is clean, and then from there you just want to work out. If you'll notice, I'll get you a little bit closer here. If you'll notice right here, you can see this is a couple years growth, and that's why if you had 1, 2, 3 buds and you prune that off, then that's where you end up getting these laterals kind of coming off of that, and then you'll do that prune again, and eventually you'll kind of end up with this kind of hand out here. And when that gets too much or too thick, or you just got a mess there that you need to prune that back, then what you can do is you can prune that completely off and start over. But this is what you're working towards when you're trying to get those initial prunes of just doing 2 to 3 buds. And you also want to think through, as we've mentioned this multiple times, if you got a super vigorous vine, you might want to just do 2. If you've got one that's less than that's not very vigorous and it's really a slow grower, you might want to leave 4, just to give you a little bit more of opportunity for things to grow out there. You can always adjust, but just kind of thinking through that. But again, this is what you're wanting to work towards, and then you prune off of that. So let me work on these a little bit, and we'll kind of bring you in if there are any other details. And again, you want to be careful pulling on them, because you can end up just ripping off one of them. 2. And if there's anything crossing over like this, you definitely want to take care of that. So kind of look at this. Hey, hang on a second. We will prune this one back down under here, even though that's only 1 bud. Again, it can get really overwhelming when you've got things growing everywhere and you're just really not sure what to do. You're not going to hurt it, but you definitely want to kind of think through, hey, how am I going to prune this? What will be beneficial? That kind of thing. It'll always grow back. It's kind of like getting a haircut. It'll grow back. Although eventually you might not necessarily be where you want to be with the hair situation. You always want to look at those tendrils. Let me give you another good example of that here. See that there? It's wrapped all the way around. That's just from last year. You need to get that off, or it's going to choke off one of your main cordons. I got another one here. And just get it off. I've also seen folks come out here just with hedge clippers and kind of come at them and then get and do your pruners. You certainly could do that too. I tend to I don't have enough that it's like super overwhelming. Come out here, spend a couple hours, and get everything knocked out. Got this one coming all the way up and across. You know what? I'm just gonna prune it down there. Hopefully it will offshoot that direction. The string up here at the top was to hold some bird netting on. Then we realized that it was mostly the squirrels getting rid of everything. See how this one's crossing up right here? You got some crossing. That's going to end up rubbing right there. It's barely enough space for my finger to go. So we want to kind of think through. Last year this was probably 2 years ago. And then last year we had growth come out here. And here possibly, or anyway, this was a prune, and you see it went that direction. So we've got a bud here. Hopefully if I prune it there, it'll come back out this way. If not, then we'll just come back and prune that one completely off this coming year. I've seen some comments on folks that are pruning on their trees, and that'll be an upcoming video as well. I thought it might be on this one, but I think it'll be too long for you guys in regards to what y'all's preferences are. But I saw a video the other day as I was trying to watch my just watch other content, see what other people are doing, and they were like, pruning is personal preference. There's really no right or wrong way to prune, and that's true to a point, but there are some wrong ways. So I would definitely correct that comment specifically. There might not be a perfect way, but there is most certainly a wrong way to prune, and especially on some trees and some things I've seen, sometimes you just cringe at some of the stuff you see. That's totally fine. I'm sure some people cringe on mine. I'm not a pro at this stuff. It's just a hobby that I enjoy. But I think overall, there's definitely some ways that you want to think through before you just start hacking away at something in your yard. Please ask some questions or get somebody who knows what they're doing, not just your Uncle Joe who eats Thanksgiving dinner with you and loves muscadines himself. He really doesn't know what he's talking about either. A few other things we've had some comments on, and that's been about spacing of plants here lately. There's been some adjustments with that in regards to what people have heard. Spacing's always been 16 to 20 feet. It's just personal preference. I will say that you know, it depends on the vigor of the vine. We've talked about this before, and just making sure you're making those decisions wisely about where you're putting things. These two vines are on, I think, just under 24 feet, something like that. I think they've got about 12 feet apiece, and they work. It's fine, but as you can see, you get a lot of growth, and you couldn't go an extra year without pruning these, in my opinion, or you're going to end up with a hot mess. So just think about that when you're planting your vines, what spacing you've got, what you want to do, those kinds of things, because it's going to be it's going to impact what and or how you end up doing in the future. Another thing, these grape, I guess, leftovers from the stems, grapes slash muscadines only are going to fruit on new wood. So that's how you can tell, all right, was that last year's growth or not? If it's got a stem on it, well, that was last year's growth, and you can kind of see, hey, that's where that came out, that's how that came out. And that's how that's looking. Got some that are crossing up here. Let me thin this other stuff out and then I'll bring y'all in to kind of let you see this. You'll also notice that we've got these kind of wrapped all over the place over here. And that's because they are on a basically 12-foot spacing, and they are very vigorous and will take over if you don't watch out. So I'll just cut these off here. We bring y'all in. And that's why they're kind of wrapping everywhere. Alright guys, so you can see right here, we've got one coming out here, one coming here, and one coming here, crossing over this one, where it most certainly will rub. You can kind of see that right there. So you got to kind of make a decision what I want to do, because remember, these are going to come out and they kind of grow into your clusters where your vines are going to come off of, your new growth is going to come off of. You want to keep pruning that every year, but you want to kind of think through, all right, hey, how's this going? What do I want to do with it? How am I going to do it? And you don't want anything rubbing like that. You also don't want a tendril being wrapped around. It's a perfect example. That one's almost choked off there. So my thought process right here is I'm just going to leave this one here, and so we're going to take that one completely off. Hopefully this bud will come out this way and not the one back here. If it does, that's all right. We will prune it. And then on this one, there's a bud right here on the back side, so I'm going to prune there. Hopefully it will go out that way. And then this one, there's a bud here and there's a bud here, so I'm going to prune it right there. Hopefully that will come out. Also have a tendril right here, so you want to make sure to get that off. Again, those grape bunches right there. Whoop. Anyway, back at it. Tangly mess over here because again, we are growing it in a tight space. Can you make it work? Absolutely. Is it going to be fun? Sure. Is it going to be a pain in the neck sometime? Good chance of it. Again, do you have to let it wrap all the way around doing all this kind of stuff? No. But last year I said I was going to root some of these, and I actually got some to air layer, and then that's why I was letting them stay long. This year I don't think I need any more noble vines. Not exactly. They taste good, but they're so tiny. So we'll just do that there. Folks also talk about doing double rows. On the other end we did that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. You can do it, but yeah, take that out there. Let's come out around this way. Why do I have all this here? It's trying to get optimal fruit in a 12-foot span. Again, it works, but it makes it a little bit of a pain in the neck for pruning, and also for kind of walking by here. It's not horrible, but ooh, big tendril. Been debating about pruning back some of these persimmon limbs too, just because of the way the growth is. That allows us to be a little bit creative and have an extra 3 feet, so you know, take it from 12 to 15 and you're about where you need to be. Oop, take that one off. You're always going to forget one even when you're paying attention. There you go. And again, this is just half. This is only half. So you can see what it was like and then what it's become. I see a couple that I'm missing now, but again, mature vine, you kind of see how things are looking. I still don't like them coming off the bottom, but it is what it is. It doesn't really hurt anything, but kind of thinking about that. All right, guys, I might set y'all up on time lapse. Just let me work all the way down this line and get it done. If I see anything unique, I'll come and grab you. One thing I mentioned about having a second row, that's essentially what we did right here. Came down and have another row coming down, and I did that initially because I thought I was going to root one, because these are really, really good bronze. They're great. I don't know exactly what variety, just know they're a big bronze and they taste absolutely wonderful. However, it makes it a pain in the neck to grow and to get to prune down here. I'm certainly going to cut off this very bottom one this year. Here, this was originally the last year I was going to air layer that, and it just didn't work. And I think I've got enough at this point to make everything work out. And once they get big like that, you really aren't going to be air layering a whole lot anyway. So we'll take that one off. But again, it's a pain to prune, and you also end up with not as much fruit ripening under here because your canopy on the top is shading out the bottom. So it really doesn't work very well. I would just encourage you, find the variety you really like, and then if you need more space, find a friend and make some kind of partnership. Get out and get to know people. Alright guys, well here is after. Give you a general sense of what it's going to look like. Again, kind of just remember the hand and those fingers coming out and how they are going to, you don't want them running into each other. And also how that growth that you allowed to come out in year one, you know, if you let it come out too far, and spacing and all that kind of stuff too. So you can see these do overlap just a little bit here, about a foot or so, and then on the end of each post we've got them going. You'll notice these are starting to sag a little bit. We are using 9-gauge wire, and these are 4x4 posts. I see that mentioned a lot as well. I would not recommend that for anything longer than 2 vines, and honestly 2 vines might be pushing it. These are starting to get a little bit of a lean to them even just a couple of years in. I would strongly recommend that you use some corner post, 6-inch round post or larger. Hopefully kind of get a general idea what this looks like and how it should look. Again, we left that second arm but did prune that. There was a third one kind of coming down and we thought we might root last year and didn't do it. So alright guys, so hopefully that was informative in regards to being able to prune your muscadine vines. But remember, you're kind of building from the beginning out. So that's why you want to start year 1 pruning, year 2 pruning really well. You can kind of get a little bit more lax the further you get out, but it's still going to be core to making sure that you're getting a good established structure to your muscadine vine, as we've got here in the ones that have been in the ground, I believe, for 4 years now. So hopefully that's been beneficial for you. Again, I'd love to hear some comments down below in regards to just other tips that you might have. If you do see them starting to weep, that's not a problem. But I would also encourage you, don't necessarily prune these if you know you're going to have some super cold temps in the really near future. But I've also pruned, my brother-in-law has one that he doesn't necessarily tend to or doesn't know exactly what to do, and I pruned it for him the last 2 years at Christmas, and it's done absolutely fine. They live a little over an hour north of us. So yeah, just working through those aspects and kind of just knowing the small amount of risks that you have, but also making it work with the time that you have available. Hopefully this has been beneficial, as I said earlier, and I do appreciate each and every one of y'all watching thus far. If you watched it this far, you definitely appreciate what we're trying to do here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. When you do subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell like who? That's right, Mike Tyson did in the 1980s. Thanks guys, y'all have a wonderful and blessed one. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Over here you're going to have a playlist about muscadines, and then over here you're going to have a latest video in regards to what we've uploaded. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you want to see more content just like this, don't forget to subscribe right here. Thanks so much guys, y'all have a wonderful and blessed day. We'll see you next Sunday.